Hello again. This is Math 1220 coming to you from the College of DuPage. And the title of this lecture is Euler Diagrams. And this is Logic lecture number 5. As always, please be an active learner while watching these videos. In this video, we're going to use Euler diagrams to verify syllogisms. And at the end of this, you should be able to use an Euler diagram to identify a valid syllogism, or use an Euler diagram to identify an invalid syllogism. So we'll talk about what is a syllogism. A syllogism consists of a set of statements called premises, followed by a single statement called a conclusion. And as before, there's a line drawn between the premises and the conclusion. The conclusion usually says therefore. Syllogisms differ from the arguments that you've studied before, though, because they actually can include quantifiers such as all, some, and none, whereas the previous examples of syllogisms that we studied did not. So these are more complicated syllogisms, perhaps. Now, a syllogism is valid if, whenever all premises are true, the conclusion is also forced to be true. If the conclusion of the syllogism can be false even though all the premises are true, then it's invalid. So the most famous syllogism in the world is probably this one. All people are mortal. Socrates is a person, therefore Socrates is mortal. Well, if you construct this diagram, since all people are mortal, the people is contained inside the mortal circle, because if you're inside the people circle, you're inside the mortal circle. But then we say Socrates is a person. That means Socrates is inside this first circle, so that means Socrates must be in the second circle. So this is valid, and Socrates must be there, so it's the syllogism is valid. And we also use this 3 dots for the word therefore in the conclusion of a syllogism. Let's look at another syllogism here in example 1. All poets are good spellers. Dante is not a good speller. Therefore, Dante is not a poet. Well, when we start doing this, all poets are good spellers will look like this. But then Dante, we know, is not a good speller, so he's outside that circle. So can we conclude that Dante is not a poet? And the answer is yes, we can. Therefore, this conclusion is valid. Although you may believe that it is possible for a person to be a poet without being a good speller, you may feel this premise is not relevant to the validity of the argument. But remember, it's possible for individual premises to be false, and yet the syllogism can be valid. You must depend on the Euler diagrams rather than your intuition to determine validity. We can also use a Euler diagram to show that something is invalid. So here we're using an Euler-gram to show that the syllogism is invalid. So here we have all tigers are meat eaters. Simba is a meat eater, therefore Simba is a tiger. Well, if we look at this picture, you see that we have tigers here, and all tigers are meat eaters, so they're contained within here. But then we say Simba is a meat eater. Now, it could be that Simba is inside of this and is a tiger, but also it's possible for Simba to be outside of this and not be a tiger, like perhaps Simba could be a lion. And in fact, Simba was the name, I think, of the Lion King in the Disney film. So anyway, this is invalid because you've shown one Euler diagram where that is not true. In example 3, we're going to analyze a syllogism that contains the quantifier no. So assume the syllogism begins with the following 2 premises. No MacBooks get viruses, and my laptop does not get a virus. Can we conclude that your computer is a MacBook? Well, the fact that no MacBooks get viruses is shown simply by drawing MacBooks as one circle and viruses as another circle, and they don't overlap. So can you conclude that your computer is a MacBook? Well, it's possible your computer is a MacBook. It's also possible your computer is up here. It has to hold for all arrangements, therefore that is an invalid argument. Can we conclude that my computer is not a math book? And you see we can't conclude that either, because it could be here or it could be here. So you cannot make either conclusion. And so that shows that you have to be careful when analyzing a syllogism that contains the quantifier no. In a similar manner, the quantifier some can be misleading in syllogisms also, because there are several different ways to represent some in Euler diagrams. So in each of these diagrams, it represents some A's or B's. So here you have some A's are B's. You have some A's or B's. Now that really is all A's or B's, but we'll just say that there's some. And here, some A's are B's, namely those that are in B. So you see you have a bunch of different possibilities. So let's analyze a syllogism having the quantifier some. So look at the following syllogism. All cars manufactured after 2007 have driver's side airbags. Some cars with driver's side airbags have passenger side airbags. Therefore, some cars with passenger side airbags were manufactured after 2007. Well, you have to draw a number of diagrams to show all possibilities, because a single diagram can show a syllogism is invalid. So let's look at such a diagram. So we think about several different diagrams, and if we feel it's impossible to make it invalid, then we'll say it's valid. But let's look at this one. So here, after 2007, you had a driver's side airbag, and some cars have passenger side airbag. So you could draw it this way, you could draw it this way, or you could draw it this way. By luck, the first diagram we drew shows it is possible to have cars manufactured after 2007 have passenger side airbags. Therefore, the conclusion does not follow from the premises. By luck, the first diagram we drew shows it is possible that no cars manufactured after 2007 have passenger side airbags. Therefore, the conclusion does not follow from the premises, so the syllogism is invalid. In example 5, we talk about the fact that there are extra conditions that are always present in an Euler diagram, and sometimes you have to look at cases. So all A's are B's, some B's are C's. So you see we have three different conditions, at least three different conditions that we get. So there are many possible conditions. Because the circles containing A and C do not intersect, that's in the first one, we have drawn the extra condition that no A's are C's. In B, because the circles containing A's and C's do intersect, we have drawn the additional condition that some A's are C's. And over here, we've shown that all A's are C's. So you see you do have these conditions, and it can be tricky doing Euler diagrams. In closing, now more than ever, time is precious. Each day must count. Do the math. It will make you strong. And now more than ever, take care of yourself and of each other. We're all in this together. May God bless you all.